And welcome back to Subculture on centralcoastradio.com. That was the brand new single from Jazella, Tuesday He Kissed Me. A great little song to wake you up on a Sunday morning. But now Lee has jumped into the studio with me. Say hi to everybody, Lee.
Hi, everyone.
And we're going to take a look now at a brand new musical that has landed in Melbourne. Now, it is Green Day's American Idiot, which is being put on by the brand new theatre company called Theatrical. They've actually only had one production before this one, and they're making a big noise in the Melbourne theatre scene with the productions that they're putting on. Like I said, their new production is directed by Scott Bradley, and it has brought back Green Day's American Idiot to the stages here in Melbourne. It's at Chapel Off Chapel, which, funnily enough, is actually in a chapel just off Chapel Street in South Yarra. Now, this is an amazing production. I wasn't sure how I was going to go with this production of American Idiot because, of course, the leads are people like Matt Dwyer, John Mondello, and Ronald McKinnon, not names that would normally roll off the tongue of people that are fans of Melbourne theatre, whereas last time this show hit Melbourne, it had all Aussie rock stars, including Sarah McLeod, Adelita from Magic Dirt in the roles. So I was kind of wondering how it would go with some actors with a little bit less experience than those guys, but this actually really worked for me. But Lee, you're our theatre expert. What did you think of Green Day's American Idiot last night at Chapel Off Chapel?
Great performances. Very high energy musical, actually, with a number of dancers and singers, and an amazing live band in the background. Now, the band you can see through, through the, I guess, props, and you can see their high energy and also love for theatre as well. They were getting into that music and rocking it out. They were bopping along to it. So you could see the whole cast just loved this musical that they were doing.
Yeah.
Now, do you want...
Yeah, I was just going to say for the story-wise for people out there as well, what actually happens in this musical is that it surrounds three male characters at the start. Johnny, played by Matt Dwyer, Tunny, played by John Mondello, and Will, played by Ronald McKinnon. Now, they realise that they're in a kind of dead-end town where there's nothing really happening for the teenagers. So Johnny decides they should all head off to the big city. But unfortunately, that plan doesn't really work for Will, whose girlfriend, Heather, played by Harmony Thomas Brown, falls pregnant. So he stays. The others go off to the big city, but soon Tunny finds himself in the military because there's nothing much happening in the big city either. And it's from there where all of their lives change forever. How did you feel that the story worked on the stage?
I think that it's a really good story. It's a depressive story in some ways, though. It feels like the characters are really stuck in the place that they live, in the lives that they live. And so while it's a depressing story, it is told really well. Now, the three main characters, the three men, while you're watching their story, there's times where their stories overlap, and so you might have three storylines going at once. Now, that bit I got a bit lost in at times because sometimes I was so focused on one of the stories that I missed a little bit of someone else's story. Not that that was a bad thing, but just I always caught up. I always realised something had happened, and I then started watching their storyline instead. So yeah, I just think if you're going to watch this, to make sure that you're really watching all characters on stage so that you don't miss some of the storylines. What do you think?
Yeah, where we were sitting last night too, we were a little bit to the side of the stage, second row back, but side of the stage, which meant during one of the sequences where there was things happening with all three of them, Will and Heather were having a fight right in front of us. Johnny and what's her name, played by Rummy McIlroy, were making love in the middle of the stage, and then on the other side, Tunney was going through what he goes through in the military. So it was kind of difficult. I don't think you saw exactly what was happening to Tunney at that point. Like you kind of have to keep your eyes on every single part of the theater, which is sometimes difficult because I found myself at times wanting to look at the band as well. One of the things I found quite interesting last night was they have a strings section for part of the band, which I feel really enhances some of the music that comes through, because Green Day's music is really high energy and up tempo. But of course, if you've been along and seen Green Day play, Green Day's a trio, so you've only got bass guitar, lead guitar, and drums. So the string section is something completely new to hear with Green Day's music. I kept on finding myself wanting to look at the string section while they were playing the music because it looked like the cellist and the violinist's hands were almost flying off their bodies while they were trying to keep up with the guitars and drums and stuff like that. So yeah, you do find little distractions like that. But what did you think of the performances of the whole cast? Because this is one of those productions where the entire cast, including the ensemble, has a very, very important part in this production.
They all did really, really well. I thought the standouts were the character of Will. I really loved the performance of what's her name. I actually wish she had a name, but that's what she's called in this. I really loved her dancing, her singing. She did exceptionally well. I also thought the character of Heather was really good. I think she stole the show a little bit at times. She just did so well.
Such a powerful voice too, with vocals.
Very powerful voice. And I really loved that and really made the show come to life. I love the dancing. So the choreography was really good, I thought. They were just right there in front of you. It's a small venue, but it makes it more up close and personal, I think. The harmonies, the singing, all engaging. Like, I was singing along. I was one of those people that sang along probably to nearly every song, very quietly, of course, but I noticed other people in the audience were doing the same thing, just getting involved, rocking it out. Now, you will get some fantastic Green Day songs, of course, American Idiot. The ones I really loved, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Holiday, and 21 Guns, Wake Me Up When September Ends. There's so many.
Yeah, and for me, my favourite tracks were Give Me Novocaine and Are We The Waiting. Those tracks are so haunting in a live environment. And we talked a little bit before about the choreographer and the choreography all the way through. That was done by Grace Collins. We'll give credit where credit's due there. She did an amazing job because quite often the ensemble is doing stuff behind the leads, which works really, really well. The other actor I wanted to talk about too was Will Hyung, who plays Saint Jimmy. He has a very important role in this because Saint Jimmy, for anyone who's ever seen the musical or listened to the album, is basically Satan. He's the person who's trying to lure the characters into different things, and it's a kind of make or break role with the musical. If you get that role wrong, you can lose a lot. But what did you think of Will playing Saint Jimmy?
Yeah, he did a really good job. You could sense the evilness in him, and of course that's a very important storyline within this theatre production. Now, of course, co-written by Billie Joe Armstrong from Green Day itself and also Michael Mayer. And how much better can you have a musical than to have a co-writer that's actually from Green Day?
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that really enhanced this as well, and I think it's something that theatrical has done really well, is this is, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, this is kind of a grimy story. And I actually thought the staging last night was actually a little bit better than the staging of when we saw it years ago in the comedy theatre. And I think that was something that really came alive last night, was the kind of grimy feel that you had on stage. There was times when like characters threw rubbish and stuff, and it was a creative choice to leave that rubbish on the stage, which I thought actually enhanced it. And I think Scott Bradley did a really, really good job with that. We should also mention the musical director, Tara Cannon as well, because she did an amazing job. Because you actually get to see her work when you're watching the actual production, because you can see her at the back of the stage with her band. She did an absolutely amazing job. I think the music in this was fantastic. As was the everything to do with this production. So I would really recommend that people head along and see Green Day's American Idiot, the theatrical production at Chapel Off Chapel, or Chapel Off Chapel, I should say. What would you say for people out there?
Yeah, definitely. You should go along and see this if you love Green Day. If you love their music, this is for you. You get track after track. You get to see the musicians in the background. So if you like live music and band type atmosphere, then you actually get to see the band in this. So you feel like you're getting all this money's worth for your ticket, because you get to see so much, and you can see how much everyone's loving their roles, and also, the musicians in the background. So if you're a Green Day fan, you will love it.
Yeah, you get a concert and a show all in one, and this is absolutely amazing. I am so pleased to see what Theatrical as a company are doing. I think they're very, very exciting here in Melbourne at the moment. It's taking me back to when we had theatre companies like La Mama first starting up. It's a really, really exciting time. So go along and support them. Go and check out Green Day's American Idiot, which is on at Chapel Off Chapel right now. And to get us into the mood of American Idiot, we're going to take a listen to Green Day's Wake Me Up When September Ends.